By the fall of 1981, despite CBS Records' best efforts to keep the Jackson family's domestic turmoil secret, most industry insiders were aware of what happened between Catherine and Gina because of the public filings of the lawsuit litigation. Michael had made it clear that he did not want to have to face any reporters because he was afraid that he might be asked to comment on the matter. However, the press going to promote Triumph would continue, Michael's wishes notwithstanding. Michael Jackson, who had just turned 23, was a contradictory figure. He was decisive and determined as he had proved a few times along the way, but he was also vulnerable and confused. Though he was beginning to seize control of his career, he was still reluctant to sever ties with his family. "I'd die if I were alone," he told me in a telephone interview on his birthday. He was unable to leave the womb, to move out of the house. "No way," he said, "I could never leave here." Instead of growing up, Michael actually seemed to be progressing, buying toys, playing childlike games, and for the first time actually surrounding himself with children. Young fans who gathered at the gates of the estate to catch a glimpse of Jackson coming or going were now were being invited to spend time in the intersecting with Michael. It was odd behavior. Jackie now called him a man-child, explained he's a man but still a kid. A wonderful combination. When asked about the possibility of having his own children, Michael shook his head no. He liked to raise a child, he said, but it would be one whom he would adopt. In the far future, he would not procreate. He said, "I don't have to bring my own into the world," he said uneasily. "It's not necessary for me to do that." He continued, "One of my favorite pastimes is being with children, talking to them, playing with them in the grass. They're one of the main reasons I do what I do. They know everything that people are trying to find out. They know how many secrets, but it's hard for them to get it out. I can recognize that and learn from it. They say things that astound you. You go through a brilliant genius stage, but then, when they become a certain age," Michael paused, "when they get to a certain age, they lose it." I was scheduled to interview this extraordinary man-child on October 3rd, 1981, an encounter that was arranged by a publicist at Epic. In advance, I was warned not to mention Jane Sprague or any questions about the incident or the state of Michael's parents' marriage. I was at my desk compiling a list of questions when the telephone rang. It was Michael. He got to the point quickly. "There's a certain way I want to do this interview," he told me. "Sure thing, Michael, whatever you like." "Well," he began slowly, "I'd like for Janet to help." "Help?" "Yes. See, Janet is going to sit in on our interview," he told me. "You'll ask her the questions, and then she'll ask me. Then see, I'll give her the answers, and she'll give them to you. How does that sound?" "It sounds strange, Michael, but I don't even think I understand it. Could you explain that to me again?" He repeated the scenario and said it was the only way he would consent to the interview. "So I hope you understand," he said briskly. "Okay, bye." "Wait," I said. "I don't get it, Michael. You're having me an interview, but you're not talking to me? What kind of madness is that?" "It might seem like madness to you," he said, "but there are reasons for the things I do. You must have to try to understand. If you're willing to do it my way, I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now." I wonder if I would conduct an interview in that manner. Did it make any sense? Of course, I had to try. How could I turn down the opportunity to engage in it? No doubt the strangest interview I ever had with Michael or with anyone else for the matter. The next day, I arrived at the Encina home in the time for the interview. "Sure glad you can make it," Michael said as he shook hands. He was wearing a black t-shirt and matching jeans. His feet were bare. I noticed that his nose was thinner and more defined than it had been the last time I saw him, which was about 6 months earlier backstage at a Patti LuPone concert in Hollywood. His falsetto whisper of a voice seemed even softer than it had been at that time. After Michael and I exchanged pleasantries in the living room, Janet, age 15, walked in wearing a red leather miniskirt, black boots, and a plaid sweater. She did not greet me, rather, she sat at Michael's side in a robotic fashion, not even acknowledging his presence. Michael introduced me to her as if we had never met before. Of course, we had. We shook hands, but she never made eye contact with me. I sat opposite them. Now, you'll do the interview the way you promised, won't you? He asked. When I said that I hadn't promised anything, he rose from his chair. Well, then, we can't do the interview, he said. His words clipped. Wait, I told him, motioning for him to be seated. Let's try it. Let's start with the new album, Triumph. How do you feel about it? Michael pinned me with his dark eyes and I toward his sister. I directed my question. Janet, will you please ask him how he feels about the album? Janet turned to Michael. He wants to know you how you feel about the album, she said. Tell him I'm very happy about it. Michael said, his tone relaxed. Working with my brothers again was an incredible experience for me. It was. He stopped, searching for the word. Magical, he concluded. Janet nodded her head and turned to me. He told me to tell you that he's very happy with the album, she repeated, and that working with his brothers was an incredible experience for him. There was a pause. You forgot the part about it being magical, Michael said to her, seeming peeved at her for not doing her job properly. Oh, yes. Jenna looked at me with apologetic brown eyes. He said it was magical. Magical? I asked. Yes, magical. As I tried to think of another question for Jenna to ask him, I scrutinized Michael carefully for the first time that day. It suddenly struck me that he was wearing makeup. His brows and lashes were darkened with mascara. His eyelids clear with soft pink shadow. Rose emphasizes his cheekbones. And was that lipstick? Yes, I decided lipstick. Today, the notion of Michael Jackson wearing makeup in day-to-day living was opposed to on stage or on camera, where practically all men in show business wear it. It's certainly not novel. Back in 1981, though, it would never have occurred to anyone that Michael would wear makeup in his home for an interview. It was applied subtly and with great care. He looked exotic. The interview went on for about 30 more awkward minutes. Occasionally, Jenna would inject a comment of her own. In an effort, it seemed to me, to keep the conversation alive. Mug remember when that girl got upset because she had heard you had a sex change? She said to him. Do you remember what happened to her? She got so upset, she jumped right out a window. I think she died, Jenna said. Poor thing. Michael looked into space blankly. Finally, I decided that I had enough of the exchange and said I'd rather not continue with the interview, but why not? Michael wanted to know. Wait, Jenna will tell you what happened when I visited Catherine Hepburn last month, he offered. It's a good story. I'd rather you tell me, Michael, I pressed. Well, I can't. There's a small silence between us. Well, look, just forget it, I said. Let's just forget the whole thing, Michael. Okay, cool, he said, smiling somewhat ruefully. He rose. Nice to see you again, he remarked, not connecting with my frustration. Let's do this again sometime. Then he left the room. Janet threw me a look and extended her hands at me, palms up, as if to exclaim, now look what you've done. Once alone in Jackson's living room, I tried to figure out what I just concerned. As I was putting my tip recorder and notes in my briefcase, Catherine walked in. She looked disheartened. Did you just interview Michael? She asked. Please be nice to him. The press is so mean these days. She shook her head in a loss. I don't know what to tell you, she said. She slumped into the chair opposite me, practically speechless with fatigue. It was disconcerting. In the past, she always had such dignity and poise. I'm worried about him, she said, finally looking at me. Her eyes were full of warmth and concern. There's so much pressure, things are so difficult. When she realized she was perhaps saying too much, she stopped herself. Would you let yourself out? She asked me abruptly. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach as I walked out of the front door. What was going on in this household, I wondered. While walking down the driveway, I looked up at the mansion and saw a face peering out from one of the upstairs windows. It was Michael. When he realized I had spotted him, he ducked out of sight. The next morning, I received a telephone call from Joseph. Just before I had pulled out of the Jackson Estates gates, I had seen him in the driveway. I stopped to tell him what had happened. His coca-colored weather-beaten face broke into a wide grin. He shrugged his shoulders. Well, that's my boy, he said. Now, on the telephone, he could have been more apologetic. I'm sorry about that, man, he told me. I was thinking about it, and I wanted to explain. According to Joseph, Michael told his record company that he no longer sought direct contact with the media for fear of questions about that girl. You know, the one we got problems with. I know he was referring to Gina Sprague, plus some other stuff what's going on. Joseph continued, but when he said he didn't want to do no interviews, the label, Epic Executives, forced him to. Me too. I told him he needs to talk to you and the other guys in the press. It's the right thing to do, Joseph said. So what can I say? He did it his way, sorry. I guess he wanted some control of his life, huh? I guess so, Mr. Jackson, I said. We spoke about 15 minutes. He seemed fine, as if nothing unusual was going on in his life. Come on by sometime and do a story on Latoya, he told me. But I got some plans for her. Just wait till you see what you're going to do. Girl's gonna be a big star. Huge. I'm telling you, huge. When I hung up, I thought about Joseph's explanation. Michael's tactic thought to be ludicrous. I thought, but it's true that desperate people take desperate measures to make a point, especially when nobody will listen. I felt a grudging admiration for the way Muggle had gotten what he wanted. He had manipulated the situation in order to make a mockery of the promised interview. I never wrote about the episode. Instead, I canceled the feature. Michael got what he wanted. No sorry.